This video is so that hopefully a computer geek or a router geek can help me figure out why this computer, and I'm going to call it computer number 2, refuses to go back online. It was online, it had been online for a year or two, and then before that it had been online for a year or two or whatever, but now it refuses to go back online. And let me tell you everything that happened that led up to it not going online anymore. Some of the information might seem unimportant or insignificant, but I have a feeling it has something maybe to do with the router. But hold on and I'll start from square one. Okay, this is computer number 1. I was on computer number 1. I was doing a puzzle, you know, the puzzle that is attached to the that comes with the computer. And as I was doing the puzzle, there was a extremely loud, extremely strong lightning flash. And of course, now I am on the internet by Cox. This is the Cox cable box. So I looked down at the Cox cable box and it was doing what it's doing now, meaning I was online. So I didn't think, let me close this. So I just went on and did what I was doing. But I went and checked the TV. I checked the TV box, and the TV box did not reboot. Now, while I was doing that, the electricity did not go out. This computer did not flinch. My Cox cable box did not, that's a cable router. Y'all, I'm sorry if I don't use the correct language. The Cox cable router did not reboot. It did not flinch. So all is well. About 30 minutes later, I went to computer number 2. And the internet was open, and I tried to do some sort of search. I don't know what it was. And it told me that the internet, there was no internet connection. And I looked down, and of course, the little icon down here said no internet connection. So, no big deal. I came back to computer number 1. I unplugged my Cox router, left it unplugged, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes, plugged it back in. Of course, it came back on. Of course, this one, just like before, said that I was online. No problem. Went into computer number 2, still no internet. So, enter another computer. Computer number 3 is a iMac G4. And it's pretty easy to set up. So what I did was I set the iMac up where computer number 2 had been setting. And was still setting. And because I think this may be important, I don't know if you can see it, but this is an Ethernet wire that went to computer number 2. Now, the reason I bring up the Ethernet is because I know that Ethernets have different strengths and different, they can have different functions, and some people say some Ethernet cords work better than others. Well, it did not. I unplugged that Ethernet wire from computer number 2, hooked it to computer number 3. Computer number 3 would not go online. Computer number 3 had not been hooked up to the internet in probably a year. Now keep in mind, I am totally wired. I have no Wi-Fi. So I assumed that the Ethernet wire was wrong, was fried or something. So I bought another Ethernet wire. And I couldn't tell you the numbers on this one. I believe it's a 6. And see, I don't even know what that means. But I know that the reviews on it said that, yes, it was good, yada, yada, yada. So, I get in this new Ethernet cord. And I hook number 3 up to that Ethernet cord. And no internet. So, I tried again to reboot my Cox cable box. Well, I called Cox Cable. Cox Cable went through some stuff with me, and they said, well, let's check your router. At the time, I was using this Netgear router. It has the capability of plugging in up to 4 computers. There was times where I had 4 computers hooked up to it. But at the time, only computer number 1 and only computer number 2 were hooked up to it. So, Cox told me to call Netgear. So I called Netgear. And Netgear said, went through some little steps and everything and said, well, let's try something. She said, let's try hooking computer number 2 directly to the Cox box instead of going through the Netgear router. So, we went and I used the blue Ethernet cord and connected computer number 2 directly to the Cox router. Computer number 2 went online in a snap. No problem. The internet was there, it was working. And I told her, I said, well, just a second. I've got an idea. I happen to have another Ethernet cord, and let me try again to connect computer number 3 to the internet using the other cord. So again, just like with computer number 2, when it was connected directly to the Cox box, it went online. So she did some more checking with me, and come to find out, computer number 1 was hooked to, computer number 1, the main computer, was hooked to slot number 1, and when I connected the other computers to slot number 1, I don't remember if that worked or didn't work or whatever, but I know that it didn't. Computer number 1 worked in slot number 1, but we could not get the other slots to work. So she said, yes, you need a new router. So I ordered a new router. Now, mind you, while I was waiting for my new router, from time to time, I would hook up computer number 2 directly to the Cox box, because computer number 2 was back in my room where I like to sit, more comfortable chair, you know, so on and so forth. But the reason I could not leave it connected to the internet was because computer number 1 has the Magic Jack, which is the phone for my house. Okay, so in steps router number 2. This is a Linksys router. It's a wireless G-band router, but I called ahead of time and I said, I need a wired router. Will this router work? I told them my setup and everything, and they said yes. But when you get this router, because I want it wireless, not wired, that I had to call in support. So this router came in. I called support. Support had me connect this computer number 2, to this router. She gave me the setup numbers. There's numbers I had to go and do this and do that, and she couldn't get it to work. She tried everything. I was on tech support now. I was in the chat room, tech support chat room, the Linux router for I don't know how many hours. I want to say we started like 2 in the afternoon. We didn't end up until 8. And she pinged the computer. She did everything she could think of. And she could not get computer number 2 to connect to the router. The Linksys router. Computer number 1 had no problem whatsoever. So she thought that perhaps the Linksys router that I got was defective. So they sent me a new Linksys router, which is this. So this is the second router from Linksys I had. And of course, I went back on chat with Linksys. She couldn't get it to work. No, he couldn't get it to work. This time it was a guy. So they decided that I needed to do a phone call. So a guy called me from Linksys. And we went step by step by step. And here's the thing. Computer number 3 hooked up to the Linksys perfectly. Fine. No problem. So he asked me if I had any other computers. And I said, yes, I do. I have another computer. So just a second. Introducing computer number 4. Computer number 4 was in another room. It had not been online for about 5 years, 4 or 5 years. Again, it is a, it's an HP, nothing special about it. These are all 8.1s. This is an 8.1, just like the other one was. This one wasn't hooked up to anything. I used it when I felt like it. It wasn't even hooked up to the internet, but it could have been hooked up to the internet. The Linksys guy had me connect this to the internet, and it popped right on the internet. No problem whatsoever. So me and the Linksys guy, we tried computer number 3. We played with computer number 1, and we played with computer number 4. Everything took this Linksys router perfectly. Now, here's what makes me think that there might be a router problem. Now, not necessarily a problem with the Linksys router. But, now, just a second. When I had the Linksys router up, I've had it for 4 years. I don't know. Like I said, willy-nilly, I would connect different computers, whether it would be computer number 3. This one, I put this one away for a while, and I used just a second. There's another computer. Introducing computer number 5. Computer number 5 is a Dell. It's a Windows 7. This one had not been hooked up to the internet for at least a year. In fact, I had done a destructive recovery on it and was going to sell it. So now here's the little problems that were along the way. When he had to give me the numbers and you know, you go to those places and you put in the router number and you put in the IPS number and all this other stuff, for some reason, this router kept showing up. It's almost like he could not delete this router from the internals of this computer. All the other computers using both this Ethernet cord and using the black Ethernet cord worked just fine. And like I said, that first day and a couple of days afterwards, while I was waiting for the new cord, this computer did go online when I hooked it directly to the Cox cable router. Once we started installing these other routers, this computer refused to go online. It refused to accept this router. I did hook it up directly like I had before directly to the Cox router, it would no longer connect to the internet. So those first few days, it did connect using the Cox router. Just the router, not bypassing anything just that would have been directly to the internet as far as my computers are concerned. But for some reason, now it will not go online. Well, the Linksys guy, I called the Geek Squad. Of course, the Geek Squad can't do anything unless I bring it in, but they can tell me. They said, yes, it could have been fried. But if it had been fried with the lightning bolt, it would not have gone online connecting just to the Cox router. So I know that the internals now, this is also an HP 8.1 64-bit HP 8.1 64, is it bit, whatever that's called. So he told me the only thing he could think of, and this was on the phone, and I mean, I took the phone in there and we were typing in numbers here and there and all kinds of stuff. And like I said, it was just under 20 hours. Because if you count all the time that I was with the Netgear router, and then, of course, Geek Squad, and then, of course, the Linux, and this was my second Linux router. He said the only thing he could think of was that I had a driver that might be outdated. Now, I hadn't changed the configuration on computer number 2. I mean, other than, you know, putting up my own colors and that kind of stuff, it did have a printer attached to it. Everything worked, but it would not connect to the internet. Everything else that I had been doing on it still worked. No problem. Start up, you know, shut down, the whole shebang. Everything worked. So he told me, the Linux guy told me that the only thing he could think of was that I had a driver out of date. So I went to the drivers and I checked all the drivers and checked for updates and checked for what updates I didn't have on the computer, and nothing. So that's when I brought computer number 4 in to take the place of computer number 2. But I want to find out what's wrong, if I can find out what's wrong with computer number 2. Well, I could kick myself now because I did a destructive recovery on computer number 2, hoping that it would wipe out whatever it was remembering, because for some reason, every time he tried to change the numbers to accept this Linksys router, the Netgear router numbers would come up. And he tried several different things. So I did a destructive recovery, and I tried to connect it to the internet. No go. Like I said, I want to remind you guys, the first days, the first week, while I was waiting for that cord, it connected to the internet directly through the Cox box. But now it will not. Now there's something in there keeping it from going on the internet. And it did connect to the Cox box, to the internet, via the new blue cord and the old black cord that it's been using. So, if you guys have any idea what I could look at, what I could check, something I missed, something this Linksys guy missed, did this Netgear just gobble up my PC and such is life. I don't have a way of taking it. Well, I guess I could take it to the Geek Squad and let them try it, but then I'd pay $40 to have them say, nope, It won't go on the internet, and it's just not worth it when I can buy a new computer for as cheap as I can buy a new computer. And by the way, since I've gotten the new Linksys router, now this one has trouble downloading this computer number 3, but I think that's a whole different ball game. I think that's something totally different. This Mac G4, it was never meant to be a computer for all the time use. The only reason I bought this was so that I could learn the shortcuts and stuff on the keyboard, and I'd never use Safari. I don't have a phone that uses Safari. My flip phone, I've got a 10-year-old flip phone. So that's the only thing that this one was bought for. So the fact that it's having problems now with the Linksys router, I don't know if that has anything to do with the computer or not. But I know the computer's not fried, but there's something that everybody missed. If you've got any idea, or if you've got a suggestion that I could try, please put it down in the comment section. If there's something I missed, I tried to include everything I could think of. If there's something I missed, please ask me down in the comment section. I would love to know what happened to computer number 2. So thank you guys for watching. I also didn't want to forget, y'all, I hope I didn't forget anything. I probably gave you more information than you needed. But I also spent a good amount of time with my Cox internet provider. When I talk about sign-ins and stuff, I had to do all this with Cox, and nothing worked. So any ideas, y'all, even if it's off the wall idea, hey, put it in the comment section down below, and I'll give it a try. What the heck? Thanks for watching. Bye.